in risk, there's a connection between what the strategic team will think about and what we actually get done. And that's what PMI wants you to see about risk management, is that it's connected from top to bottom. At some point, you'll see a chart that demonstrates what they're trying to get across. And it goes from strategy to portfolio to program to projects. So the standard for risk management, it gives you all the information that you need, like the what and the why, and who cares, part of it, why do we care? It tries to put a connection between all aspects of risk management so that you absorb it. So it gives you the what and why of risk management. And the things they focus on is the purpose, the benefits of why we do risk management. I think we all know that if you mitigate risks well, then you avoid problems, and therefore your project is more successful. And they also dwell on the principles and concepts, and I think that's the theory part of the training, and that's the theory part of the standard. But they try to expand it to portfolio programs and projects. They also explain the life cycles of the project. It's mainly in projects, the life cycle of risk, mainly in projects, but they do touch on portfolios and programs. So we are not going to learn the life cycle in portfolios and programs, but it's mainly going to be about projects, because these, although how we analyze risk is the same, they're not like portfolios. It's not the same as in projects, because in portfolio, when you're looking at risk, you're looking at the risk to the total of all of the investments that the organization is busy with, and I mean project investments. Whereas, so when you look at the total of all pertaining to a specific portfolio, it is the sum of any project that went into that portfolio. So it's not like you may not know this, but I'll tell you now. All the projects and programs that sit in a portfolio may not be related. It's just like one doesn't complete the other project. But in essence, all are choices by the organization to go forward with these projects or programs because they thought these were beneficial projects or programs, so they become the portfolio. So essentially, the projects and programs that sit inside the portfolio are not really related. They're there by coincidence, by accident, not accident, by coincidence, because they were chosen. It's like if I bought a building in one location and decided, several months later to buy a building in a different location, the buildings are not related. And what happens to one building, it does not affect what happens to another building. So what I'm doing is I'm hedging my investments so that, if something happens here, it doesn't affect me here. But that tells you they're not really related. The only thing that relates them is that they were both intended to be maybe profitable for me. They're part of my decision to invest my money. This is how I chose to invest my money. So when I look at my portfolio performance, it is affected by any risk that happens to any of the investments that I have. So therefore, the assessment of risk in portfolio is more about the value of the investment or the equity that I have in the investment and protecting that equity. That's my objective, is to protect that equity, which is different than in projects where you have specific scope and schedule and cost baselines, and those need to be met. And if you don't meet them, then your project is a failure. It's not like you can meet your project 82%. You need to finish all aspects of your project. A portfolio could return 82% of what you expected it to return and still be considered profitable, because an 82% return is fine. You put $1 billion and you ended up with $1 billion and a 1.82 billion essentially. That's an 82% return. How it got that profit is from the underlying projects and programs. So it's always the value of the assets and the protection of that equity that I have in it. Projects you need to protect the scope of work. You need to make sure everything can be done as promised. You need to make sure it can be delivered on time. It's a different flavor. It is specific in a project. All the work that we do in a project is related to that outcome that we're trying to deliver. all the work we do in the programs is related to the benefit that we're expecting out of it. Seeing that some of you are not PMI oriented, um, the word project would refer to something that is a one-off, where you have a scope of work and you need to deliver on it, and it has usually a schedule and a cost baseline, which means an agreed to value for when we will complete it and for how much. That's the schedule and the budget, and the work that we will hand over, which is the scope of work. In projects, you're working for that scope. You're trying to deliver that scope. In programs, it's different. In programs, there's a benefit or outcome that we're looking for. So, for example, we want to reduce number of accidents in a specific city from, let's say, 6,000 accidents per year to zero if we can. Obviously, zero is not possible, but we want to reduce it from 6,000 to, let's say, the benchmark is 500 accidents per year. When I say benchmark, I mean other countries or other cities. This is what they record. This is the standard out there, that it's normal that these amounts of accidents may happen due to normal day-to-day life. So if we're having 6,000, then that's a lot. So to reduce that is a program, because it's not one initiative that is going to fix it. It's going to be laws, regulations pertaining to driving and red lights and so on, and even working on the engineering and design of these traffic lights, maybe creating new roads, like assessing why people travel in a specific area, doing some construction work, doing some advertising pertaining to safety in driving, and maybe working with insurance companies to give incentives for those who don't have accidents, and so on. So you will see that it's a multifaceted approach for you to be able to get that benefit, which is reduction in number of accidents. That's how programs are. It takes multiple different initiatives for you to get the result. And you don't record the result immediately. Most of the time, you have to wait, give it 6 months, 1 year, to see if there's been a difference or not. So that's what programs are. When you're trying to protect risk, when you're trying to manage risk in a program, you're trying to mitigate the risk that could affect the benefits that you're expecting out of this program. Reduction in number of accidents. Anything that stops you from achieving that is considered a risk. So programs are to deliver benefits over time from a bunch of projects or programs that are sub-programs that are managed in a coordinated way. Portfolios are the collection of projects or programs that we have in our investment, and we're managing the value of that investment and the risk we're trying to mitigate to that value. And projects are just one-off. So you'll see that projects are the lowest end of the chain because a program can have 2 or more projects. It has to. Or at least one project, but there's got to be more to it than just a project. Maybe an operational component could be part of a program, and a portfolio can have programs and projects. So the higher level is the portfolio. So that's like the grandfather, father, and son. That's how it is. The son cannot have under him a father. Father is above him. So that's how it works. Project cannot have a program or portfolio in it. Likewise, a program cannot have a portfolio, but it's the other way around. Portfolio can have programs and projects. Program can have projects. Projects can have sub-projects. Okay. So anyways, the standard covers all of these things. They want you to be aware of all aspects of risk, and I think that's a good thing in the end. Principles of risk management. When we say principles, rules, regulation, principles, things that we stick to, the things that we find are first and foremost when it comes to risk management. We strive to achieve excellence in the practice of risk management, and I think that's what this course does. Strive to achieve excellence in the practice of risk management. Try to align it with the strategy and governance practices. This is why they've added the term strategy, portfolio, program to the training. Focus on the most impactful risk. We cannot deal with every single risk out there, so we need to focus on what really matters, which means the high probability, high impact risks. Those are the ones we deal with. Balance, realization of value against overall risks. So when you try to deal with risk, there are many ways to deal with risk, and some can be very costly, and some are costly and maybe targeting risks that are not really that important. So if you prioritize and focus on the most impactful risks and you deal with these, then you most likely will realize value overall. If you focus on the lower impactful risk and don't deal with the higher impactful risk, higher impactful means it could cause a lot of damage. If you don't deal with these, then there's a very good chance you don't realize much value because you dealt with the minuscule risks and left the big ones to hurt you. So your goal is to balance the way you deal with risk so that you can maximize the value that you get out of this. Foster a culture that embraces risk management. As I mentioned, it is a culture, it is a mindset. Um, there should be a sign, a poster, in the, I don't know if you have a pantry or canteen or something like that, but any place where people gather, even if you want in the bathroom where you stand up to pee, maybe above there, you need to have a sign that says, be careful. Something that just tells you about risk management. Put it there where people have nothing to do anyways. They have to look at the wall. So you put it right there at the wall. They read it. But usually they say you need to ingrain it inside the mindsets of people. So it has to be discussed in meetings. There has to be signboards everywhere reminding people about risk. And it's not something that says risk, 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 it's the end of the world, be careful. No, it's not that. But, there could be a sign that says, 5 signs that um, it is time to change that part, or 5 signs that your project is not well planned. Something that, wakes people up to the concept of risk. So some of the principles also include navigating complexity, and what they mean by complexity, things that are interlocked with many variables in them, that are not easily predictable. Those are considered complex. They have too many moving parts. So navigating that complexity with risk management so that you can have successful outcomes. Again, one of the things we covered is that the outcome on a project will be the scope, outcome on a program will be the benefits we're expecting, and the outcome on a portfolio will be the return on investment from the underlying projects and programs. So when we navigate complexity, it means we deal with all of the uncertainties. The more uncertain something is, the more complex it is. Okay? And we continuously try to improve our risk management competency. So these are the key principles of risk management. Could they ask you on the exam about the principles? Yes, they can. They can if they want.